Hey everyone, welcome back to the Landslide series, and I'm going to get you ready for what the next couple of videos are going to bring. We're starting to get to some much more advanced exercises, and one big thing you want to make sure you got out of the way is a good understanding of hammer-ons and pull-offs. Because as we're doing hammer-ons and pull-offs and Travis picking, things get a little more complicated than when you're just playing a melodic solo, or when you're having to play not as many notes or not spread out over as many strings. So I'm going to go over some basics of how you got to deal with hammer-ons and pull-offs in these kind of new circumstances while you're kind of doing a Travis picking solo, and that'll prepare us for the next couple of lessons where we'll talk about playing melodies that cross over into the bass strings. We'll talk a little bit about how to do shifting over some of these kind of like wider positions that we might go into, and how to be doing solos way up here on the neck and still kind of stay inside the chord progression that we're doing. So yeah, without further ado, let's get into the first exercise. So the big issue that you tend to run into with Travis picking and hammer-ons and pull-offs is coordination of the left hand and the right hand, or the picking hand and the, fingering hand, as you were, for lefties. Because the key is, when you're Travis picking like this, that motion will often confuse your picking hand, or at least for most people it will. So like a lot of the other exercises, I really recommend you do a sort of displacement scale of a very basic exercise, just to make sure that you can get the picking hand and the fretting hand working together. So I'll just, set over a G chord. I got my ring finger on the 3rd fret of the thick E string, and I'm just playing bottom, top. And I make sure my hammer-on is good with this finger. I'm playing on the G string. I'm going open, 2nd fret, open. Of course, I got a capo on the 3rd fret, but you could do this in the open position too. So you want to make sure you can do that with this finger planted. And it sounds nice and clean. So then your Travis picking is going, and you want to go through every possible relationship you can have with your thumb in a 4/4 kind of 8th note pattern. So you could start this. So I kind of started it with my first thumb stroke. 1, 2, 1, 2, right with that first bottom stroke. Then I can put it right after the thumb stroke. I'll put it with my 2nd thumb stroke. And right after the 2nd. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So all I did was go, but in 4 different relationships with the thumb. I did one that was in unison with that first thumb stroke, one that came right after that first thumb stroke, one that was in unison with the 2nd thumb stroke, and one that came right after the 2nd thumb stroke. And if you can do that on the G string, you want to make sure you can also do it on the other strings too. So I'll go, same thing on the B string. So I'm hammering on with a pluck, and then I'm just pulling off just with this hand without a pluck in this hand. And that kind of makes sure that you're comfortable doing each of those 3 types of strokes that you're going to deal with in a sort of hammer-on pull-off motion in all the relationships with the picking hand. And that exercise right there, if you can take the time to really get that down, that'll sort out a lot of the problems that you could run into. So you're going to find as you are starting to explore a little higher on the neck, if you're going along, when you want to get into doing hammers and bends here, sort of in this upper position, there's one really important thing I found you have to work on, and that's where your thumb is placed. If your thumb is too far up towards the head of the guitar, these fingers don't have any support. So one of the keys I really focus on is, if I'm kind of playing up here and I want to do a hammering riff up here, I want to make sure, if my thumb is further back than this pointer finger, it's going to be really hard. It's really hard to be accurate. If I move this thumb kind of so it's opposite my middle finger, it's a little further up the neck of the guitar. You can't see it, but I got a lot more strength in the pinky. And when I'm trying to do a bend like this, if I want to have all that strength, the two things I got to have are the thumb kind of supporting on the other side to kind of get that pull. And also, I'll often use these other fingers. I'll engage more finger than just the one to strengthen, you know, whatever finger's doing the bend. So especially if I'm doing a hammer with the pinky. And then I'm bending. See how I was kind of using this and this and this finger all kind of in one. They all kind of give me a little bit more strength. So the thumb and adding extra fingers are the real keys to having bends, you know, in these upper positions. So just a thought on how to start to integrate more ideas about hammer-ons and pull-offs and bends as you are getting into more advanced Travis picking and